The Seaside Heights and Vicinity Job Fair takes place Saturday noon till 3 at the Acme in Ortley Beach. Job offers extend beyond the beach, and some pay more than $18 an hour. We have details at WOBMAM.com. Jersey Shore weather, WOBM meteorologist Ann Zaros says partly cloudy till dawn, temps around 40. Thursday clouds, chance of afternoon showers and highs mid-50s. News, traffic, and weather anytime at WOBMAM.com.
Fox News Radio, I'm Kathleen Maloney. He's far behind Donald Trump in the GOP presidential race, but Ted Cruz is choosing a running mate, former candidate Carly Fiorina.
Carly knows firsthand from decades in the business world running one of the 20 largest corporations in America, where jobs come from.
Fiorina wasting no time taking shots at the frontrunners in both parties.
People all across this nation know that Donald Trump and Hillary Clinton both will be disastrous for this nation.
Fiorina endorsed Cruz after scrapping her own GOP presidential bid. The frontrunner coming out swinging after that Cruz-Fiorina announcement.
Trump tweeted an interview that Fiorina did about Cruz while she was still in the presidential race.
He says whatever he needs to say to get elected.
Both Trump and Cruz have appearances here in Indiana tomorrow in what some are billing as Cruz's last stand in his bid for the GOP presidential nomination.
Fox's Jeff Flock in Indianapolis. After stinging losses in 4 state primaries yesterday, the Bernie Sanders campaign is cutting back.
His campaign now confirming that they're laying off a lot of staffers all around the country. Sanders' aides insist it's mostly about reallocating resources as primaries wind down. But when you lay off staffers, it's an early sign that a campaign is running out of money.
Fox's Ed Henry. He presided over the U.S. House of Representatives for 8 years. But now Dennis Hastert is headed to prison for 15 months. The sentence for his guilty plea in a hush money case. Hastert admitting to paying $3.5 million to someone he sexually abused when he worked as a high school wrestling coach. Fox News Radio. Fair and balanced.
News Talk Radio WOBM AM 1160 and 1310 presents Townsquare Tonight. Your chance to speak with Jersey Shore newsmakers about the issues that affect you. Call 732-505-1160. Now from WOBM News, Townsquare Tonight on News Talk Radio WOBM AM 1160, 1310, and WOBMAM.com.
For millions of Jersey Shore visitors, warm weather means downtime and fun. And for environmental stewards, it's also fun. But the enjoyment is in the tough work of improving the health of our air, water, and resources. With little fanfare and great commitment, the American Littoral Society in New Jersey continues stemming the flow of non-point source pollution to Barnegat Bay at spots in Toms River while mapping out an ambitious agenda of projects about to begin. There are so many of them that we really can't get into them all tonight, and we're going to have to bring you back for a second edition of this program. But because we want to focus on something that is just starting to become higher on the radar throughout this region and throughout the country, with which you are, with which this group is entirely involved. And so we welcome back into the Town Square tonight Tim Dillingham, the executive director of the American Littoral Society in New Jersey, and Helen Henderson, who is the Atlantic Coast project manager. And we're going to talk about mapping out a future for the ocean here. There's a lot involved, and you're deeply involved in it. I'd like to thank you both for coming in for this session. And let's start with the big picture here. First of all, let's start with the fact that anyone who wants to understand this concept can do so over at the Toms River Library in just a few days.
That's correct. We are co-hosting a screening of Ocean Frontiers 2 at in the Mancini Room at the Toms River Library. Doors open at 6 o'clock, and the program will begin at 6:30. And we're encouraging everybody to come out, get a better understanding through viewing the movie, and then engaging in a panel discussion with some ocean stakeholders in a forum afterwards.
Mm-hmm. Tell us a little bit about what this film is about. I know it's about New England. It's about Rhode Island specifically. And what happened up there?
So Rhode Island had gone through a special area management planning process, what we refer to as a SAMP. And through that process, they engaged a lot of stakeholders that would have an interest in what went on in the ocean off their coast. And primarily, they were able to encourage the participation of the fishermen, the lobstermen, as well as the offshore wind interests there, and numerous other interests. And they all came together, the scientists, and they all looked at, if this is going to happen, where would the best place for it to happen be? And it was a full collaboration, and it's a bit of a success story about what ocean planning can be like and what we hope to achieve off the coast of New Jersey and the other mid-Atlantic states that are currently involved in regional planning.
Tim Dillingham, the concept of ocean planning seems like a no-brainer. I mean, without some sort of a framework, how do all of these components coexist? Compounded by the fact that we've got shifting populations, different kinds of needs cropping up, improving technology, and different rationales for placing equipment, placing anything in the ocean, or mining the ocean for its resources. Offshore wind, the liquefied natural gas terminal that didn't go through. Fishermen, underground cables. There are all sorts of different reasons to be out there now. So is everybody pretty much on board with the idea that we should be planning this and structuring it so that everybody knows what they're doing and where?
Well, unfortunately, no. I don't think there's an agreement yet that we should be taking very thoughtful, science-informed steps to protect the future of the ocean. This initiative, like much of the rest of our work, is about ensuring that we're taking care of the ocean, we're taking care of the coast and the resources that are there, the benefits that it provides for our communities and for our lives, and for the marine life that lives out there, for its own purposes, its own right. It is becoming a very, very crowded ocean. As you said, there are a lot of proposals to use it for a lot of different ways. Many of them are not compatible. They can't happen in the same place. Some of them may hurt the ocean if they're not done correctly. So the idea of creating a national ocean policy and creating a regional ocean action plan is to take the best science we have, bring all the stakeholders to the table, and really think through what are the steps about where things should happen and how they should happen that ensures that we protect the ocean in the best way we can.
Tim, the genesis for this goes back about how far? I mean, I realize that both coasts are involved, the Gulf of Mexico and all the way to the Pacific, out to the islands, and the entire Jersey coast, the eastern seaboard. So when did it become apparent, and by what channels did this concept start to take root and grow?
Well, back in the early 2000s, there was a comprehensive national effort to re-examine how we managed the ocean. There was a joint ocean commission, which was the first time since the late 1960s that the U.S. had looked at our oceans and how we're using them and what are the challenges that they're facing. Out of that, President Obama adopted an executive order creating a national ocean policy. And in that, he set priorities for conservation, for trying to ensure that all the different federal agencies that are involved in making decisions about the ocean work together and that they are coordinated around a single policy which works towards the sustainable use of the ocean for the future.
Now, does that policy take the stakeholders and environmental advocates and commercial interests into account? Does it take all those viewpoints in?
Well, it calls very specifically for a process for these regional planning bodies to develop a plan and to involve the public and to involve the stakeholders and to set conservation as a priority. So that's the starting point. That was the mandate that the president gave to all the federal agencies. And that's the work that's now being launched here in the Mid-Atlantic and kind of coming to at least the first expression in the development of a plan that's due out in June of this year.
It'll be out in June. What can we expect to see in this? Do you have any idea?
Well, we are, as you can imagine, advocating for some very strong protections of the ocean. There was great science that was done. They are now coming up with the ability to understand where there are the special places in the ocean where there might be high concentrations of biodiversity or fish, or areas that are slightly more important than others for fishing or other uses. And we think that those ecological areas particularly need to be identified. They need to be protected, and we need to make sure that there are policies and mechanisms in place so that the agencies who are making decisions about where LNG goes or where offshore wind might go are making sure that the protection of those places, those special places, is the starting point for that decision making.
So if I'm hearing you right, then you're not diametrically and concretely opposed to ideas about how to develop all of this. You're not strictly nothing in the water, but everything in its place is really more where you're coming from.
Right. We are, I think, cognizant of the idea that we've used the ocean for hundreds and hundreds of years, thousands of years probably, if you think about it in the really big terms. So we understand that New Jersey and the Mid-Atlantic has a relationship with the ocean. Many of our communities depend upon it, depend on it being clean, depend upon the wildlife being abundant, depend on the fish being abundant. So this effort is really about making sure that those uses can coexist. We also, though, want to make sure that uses that aren't appropriate for our ocean, like oil and gas drilling or LNG, uses that the public has said those are the things that we don't want off of our shores, that those are also accounted for in this plan, that they may not have a place in the Mid-Atlantic. And if that's what the public feels, then we want this process to bring that viewpoint to the table and make sure it's expressed very clearly to the agencies that are making decisions around those ideas.
With us in the Town Square tonight is Tim Dillingham, the Executive Director of American Littoral Society here in New Jersey, and Helen Henderson, the group's Atlantic Coast Project Manager. And we're discussing ocean planning, which will be coming more and more to the fore once these plans are, as you say, released in June. Was the National Ocean Policy, was that connected to the entire flap over seismic testing and the push toward finding oil reserves and natural gas reserves under the seafloor off the Atlantic? Was that part of that?
No, it wasn't part of it, but I think it's a very logical response to those kinds of pressures. I think it's really clear that New Jerseyans in particular think that there isn't a place for oil and gas development off our coast. We have a coastline that's dependent upon tourism, that's dependent upon clean water. What we find, unfortunately, from the lessons of BP and the Gulf is that where we drill, we spill. And so we think that this ocean planning effort, if it had preceded that whole flap about prospecting for oil and gas, would have been able to capture the sentiment of New Jerseyans, put it into this plan, and hopefully made sure that people understood that we should not be exploring offshore here.
What has been your interaction with other groups within your universe? Clean Ocean Action, Sierra Club. What is the talk among everybody?
I think that some groups are starting to put this more into their focus, to try to understand that in order to have the appropriate type of planning, that they will have to engage in this process. We can't expect that we will show up at the end of this process and object to everything that's happened before we came along. And fortunately, the society has been able to be actively engaged, not only in the Mid-Atlantic process, but prior to this, to the Northeast Regional Plan prior to this. So I think we are extending the outreach to environmental organizations, also coastal decision makers right here in New Jersey. a lot of the municipal officials, coastal businesses, others that I talk to are not all that familiar with the fact that the process is happening now. And I think we're starting to see some people really engage and understand that they're going to need to have that seat at the table now and embrace this process as it moves forward.
Now, ocean planning is kind of a nebulous concept if you're just walking into it, but if you want to see what this means in terms of, in actual physical terms, in an instance where there is an application in another part of the country, then this would be a good film that will be screened that you should see, which is called Ocean Frontiers 2. And it's about the experience that happened in Rhode Island. This is going to be Monday at the Ocean County Library, Toms River Branch. And then there will be another screening on May 19th in Harvey Cedars. So would that be at the library also? Or
That is at the Maris Stella Retreat and Conference Center in Harvey Cedars.
Okay. And both 7 o'clock start times?
That one, Toms River is 6:30, doors open at 6.
Mm-hmm.
Long Beach Island will start a half an hour later, so 6:30 and starting at 7.
What would somebody get from this, and how would it educate them about the process that the bigger process is taking place here? What can they walk away from this with?
I think a lot of people go about our daily lives. We may visit the ocean regularly, especially if we reside near it. And we're never thinking about, we're only, enjoying it. We're not really thinking about what's happening out in it. I think a lot of people will be surprised to learn how much we do currently use the ocean. Everything from our shipping ports, it's not something we're thinking about. The routes that those ships may take to get to the ports and what they may encounter in terms of migration patterns along the way. You're not thinking about using your Instagram or your social media account and how that information is transmitted through these sub-ocean floor cables that are, extended out below the seabed. And there's sand mining going on. We have a lot of beach replenishment going on, especially in New Jersey right now. Mm-hmm. So I think these are all things that are taking place. People will leave the viewing knowing more about what actually takes place in the ocean, what people would like to see take place in the ocean, such as offshore wind, and understand that it really takes everybody in the community to come out and be part of that process. Come out, learn about it, make your voice heard. As Tim said, if oil and gas is not something that you ever want to see in an ocean plan, now is your chance, to make that heard.
Mm-hmm. Am I hearing that there will be public hearings about this? Or are there going to be any presentations outside of the screening, or is there anything that we can look forward to with regard to that?
I think during the summertime, the agencies that are developing the plan will release it, and there will be public hearing, public listening sessions. If not, we will be helping to create them so that people have a chance to lend their voices to it. I think the immediate takeaway from the film, Tom, is that they'll see real people, just like the folks that live here in New Jersey, wrestling with this very real problem, like the ones that we're facing. So there are fishermen, there are Native American tribes, there are people who live along the coastline, there are local mayors, and they're telling their story in this film, which is very much like the stories about the conflicts that we're facing off our coast. So I think that's the takeaway from the film.
Tim Dillingham and Helen Henderson of the American Literal Society of New Jersey are with us in the Townsquare tonight. We're going to have a few more minutes with them right after this. Stick around.
Get ready! There's Here's a brand new, supersized, and bouncified event just for kids, and it's coming to your town. The Crazy Kids Inflatable Fun Run is the first event of its kind, and will have kids between the ages of 3 and 12 sliding and jumping their way through 1.5 miles of happy, bouncy fun. The course is filled with exciting inflatable obstacles like Super Slide, a pumped-up playground slide, Big Bounce, a colorful bounce pad with over 20 feet of fun, and Surf City, an inflatable wave of pure joy. Before and after the run, enjoy Crazy Town with bounce house landmarks and fun for the whole family. Check out the course and register your kids today at crazykidsinflatablefunrun.com.
The Crazy Kids Inflatable Fun Run is coming to Toms River High School North on June 25th. It's the first nationwide obstacle run created solely for children. Each inflatable obstacle is unique, safe, and most importantly, fun. First wave starts at 8:30 a.m. The last is 11:30 a.m. Check out crazykidsinflatablefunrun.com. Presented by Monmouth Medical Center.
Players, coaches, parents, and fans are all raving about shoresportsnetwork.com, the #1 destination for those that love scholastic sports in Ocean and Monmouth counties. This is Kevin Williams. If you have not visited shoresportsnetwork.com, then you're missing the one site that provides in-depth reporting, videos, feature stories, baseball and lacrosse scoreboards, top 10 polls, and our baseball players of the week. Brought to you by Circle Hyundai in Shrewsbury, making their mark one customer, one family at a time. You can also pick up your free copy of the bi-weekly full-color Shore Sports Network Journal at all Jersey Mike Subs and Super Wawa locations in the Shore area. The Shore Sports Network is powered in part by Sansone Jr. 66 Auto Mall in Neptune, featuring a large selection of Nissan, Kia, and used vehicles, and a proud sponsor of the Teen Safe Driving Program. That's shoresportsnetwork.com, your total sports resource.
Everyone likes to save big, but at Sansone Jr. 66 Auto Mall, you'll save bigger.
That's right, Chris. Save bigger during the huge spring savings event at Sansone Jr.'s 66 Auto Mall in Neptune. This month only. Lease a 2016 Kia Forte, now just $66 a month. Or drive the awesome new 2016 Nissan Altima. Lease today for only $129 a month. Save with incredible lease specials on most models. Hundreds to choose from.
Who says that can't have it all?
And don't worry if your credit is less than perfect. At Sansone Jr.'s 66 Auto Mall, we can reduce your interest rate and wipe out up to $10,000 in negative equity with our Negative Equity Relief Program. Or take advantage of our exclusive Rent-to-Own program. Call 855-66 Auto Mall or visit 66automall.com.
Sansone Jr. 66 Auto Mall, where we work hard to make car buying easy.
36 months, zero security, $21.90 down plus taxes, tags, and fees. Expires this month with approved credit.
Now back to Townsquare Tonight on WOBM AM 1160, 1310, and WOBMAM.com.
And we're back for a few minutes with Tim Dillingham, the Executive Director of the American Literal Society in New Jersey, and the Atlantic Coast Project Manager of the group, Helen Henderson. We've been talking about ocean planning, and it's going to become more and more of a fixture in your radar as we move toward the release of that information in June. You're getting kind of a little preview here from people who have been involved in watching the growth of it. And it's fascinating because, as you pointed out in the very beginning, we go to the ocean, we go stand at the beach, and it kind of looks like it's taking care of itself. It's just so massive, and it just keeps coming in and going out. And you thinking about these projects is massive. But when you put it all on paper, it isn't that big, and you can look at it and you can move figures around and you can start to move concepts around. So it kind of brings it down. So we've talked about the responsibility of people to take an involvement in this. We've talked about the roles of advocates and stakeholders in this process so far. Well, let's talk a little bit about the political end of this. Obviously, since federal agencies are involved, there is federal government involved, which means there are elected officials involved too. What is this? To whom have you spoken, and what kind of a sense are you getting from it?
Well, we've tried to make sure that all the elected officials are aware of the process, and part of
And this goes down to the local level.
And this goes down to the local level. And a good piece of Helen's work is reaching out to local decision makers, mayors, to the county freeholders, to the state legislature, to the congressional delegation, to make sure that they're aware of this process, because we're making choices here about the future of our ocean and how we're going to take care of it. And there are a lot of people who want a piece of it, whether it's the oil and gas industry or the wind industry or folks that want to dredge sand off of the fisheries habitat to put it on the beaches. So everybody needs to be involved in it. It is there's an education process that has to happen with local decision makers as well, and that's part of this work. So we'd encourage all of them to come out and watch the film and listen to the discussion and listen to what people from the public say in reaction to what they see at the screening.
Who's going to be on the dais?
Well, myself, and there'll be a representative from the state DEP who works in this part of the ocean planning effort that the state is doing.
The cable communication industry, as well as moderated by the executive director of the Association of New Jersey Environmental Commissions. And
That's a remarkable panel.
Yeah.
This screening is called Ocean Frontiers 2. It's going to be Monday at the Ocean County Library in Toms River. 6 o'clock, doors open, 6:30, everybody seated. And there will be another screening May 19th in Harvey Cedars at the, give it to me once more.
Maris Stella Conference Center.
I should have this tattooed on my head, and I don't. The Maris Stella Conference Center. Now it's in.
And I also should add, and Tony McDonald from Urban Coast Institute is also on the panel.
One of the most knowledgeable people I know from up that neck of the woods. You're lucky to get him. But I guess maybe not lucky. Maybe you know how to get him. You have so many other things going on, and this is a little preview of what's going to be coming up in our next episode, which will probably be in June. And that's if assuming we can get everything sewn up, and I don't see no reason why we can't. You've got the projects that you have been working on since last year in Toms River to reduce stormwater runoff pollution and non-point source pollution. They're really beautiful projects.
Thank
you. And very, very well crafted in really highly populated areas. And they're out there for anyone can see them, from the roadside. It's amazing. Now you got something going on in Ocean County Park in Lakewood in the not too distant future. What's that about?
Yes, so we're following up to the great work that we've done in the Toms River sub-watershed, and we're moving into the Metedeconk watershed, which Ocean County Park is a part of geographically, and we're implementing some really fun projects that will have a tremendous impact on non-point source pollution going into Metedeconk and flowing into Barnegat Bay. We're going to be building floating wetland islands for some of the lake features at the park, and that'll be coming up the end of June. We'll be constructing living shorelines where there's an existing bulkhead. We have some parking lot improvements, so stormwater runoff from the parking lot will be pre-treated before it discharges. And one of the real exciting parts of that project is implementing an attitudes and knowledge survey to park users to find out how aware they are of what the park has, what the environmental problems are in the bay or the watershed as a whole, just to really get a read to make sure that we're hitting all the right places and educating, always expanding that outreach as we go along.
And the Shady Rest in Bayville is figuring in your plans. The place has been there forever, and they're going to be involved in your oyster shell recycling project.
Yes, we're looking forward to expanding that to the Shady Rest this summer. We are recycling oyster shells as a public education tool at this point, but it could be done on a very large scale. We use the shells to actually put them back in to our reefs that we build in Barnegat Bay. So we have an existing reef off Good Luck Point, and we'll be doing some additional monitoring, seeing what the oyster growth and survival rates are in different parts of the bay, and taking some of the shell right from those plates, and instead of sending them to landfills, we're going to put them back in the bay and create that nice surface that, the oysters like to adhere to grow on and make that whole circle of life.
Ellen Henderson and Tim Dillingham from the American Littoral Society, New Jersey. Thank you for coming in.
Thanks, Tom.
Always a pleasure. Thank you.
A reminder, Ask the Senator. Our next episode will be on May 18th, and that will be Senator Sam Thompson. Townsquare Tonight is a presentation of Townsquare Media New Jersey Shore News Group. Mark Anthony is our producer. Tom Tremblay and Bradley James provide the video and digital coordination. Our programming consultant is Steve Artolina. The Vice President of Townsquare Media and New Jersey News Operations is Eric Scott. I'm Tom Mongelli. Thank you for joining us.
This has been Townsquare Tonight, a presentation of WOBM News. To find out more about tonight's show and stay up to date on everything happening in your hometown, log on to WOBMAM.com. News Talk Radio, WOBM AM 1160 and 1310.
This is Marianne Levy, News Talk Radio, WOBM AM 1160 and 1310. Broadcast from the Preferred Home Healthcare Studio. Since 1987, Preferred has offered the highest degree of care. Preferred Home Healthcare with feeling.
The Jersey Shore's news leader. Listen online at WOBMAM.com on the Radio Pup app for smartphones and tablets.